Okay, let's start off. Thanks for that very deep, insightful session, Ritu, and panel on the very various types of diversity that's present in the India market. Now we will sort of ideate upon how to turn a product into a brand and working through the product market fit, right? My name is Pranav. I've been part of AppsFlyer for a while. I handle technical solutions and support, but lesser said about me, better, because we have like a very inspirational panel of product leaders here. So I'm just going to kick off with that. Please introduce yourself, go clockwise, name, company, what you do, your product journey, but more importantly, and this makes it fun, one word that your team would describe you with. The more candid you are, the more goodies we have.
I'm Sai, and I head product for matrimony.com. So most of you would know it. The parent company that launched Bharat Matrimony, Jodi, and a lot others. So one of the very interesting products to work with, because trust me, it's not easy to get people married. So, and we do that, and we are good at that. So what people at office or my team calls me, he wanted something candid, but I don't know if it's going to be as candid as Pranav expects, but they call me go-getter.
Hi, I'm Apurva, and I'm working with Upgrad. For all of you who do not know what Upgrad is, we are a higher education startup for working professionals. And just like how it's difficult to get people married, it's very difficult to also make them learn, because it's investment of time and effort and a bunch of other things. I don't think I can say exactly what my team thinks of me, but I'm going to go with the answer which is acceptable. I think passionate would be a word, or a tenacious would be a word for that.
Hi, Himavant here, and I'm currently leading the marketplace, leading the product for the JioMart marketplace business. Second person hired in the marketplace business to set up the JioMart product, JioMart marketplace, and setting up the product function there. And as you know, JioMart, we sell everything right from a small needle to a refrigerator. So again, working on expanding further selection and serving customers. So one word that the team would describe me is compassionate.
Myself, Dilip Chandra. I head the product and analytics for an organization called AHA. It's a video streaming platform which is focusing on Telugu and Tamil markets. So we are a 100% regional, local video streaming platform. I'm called a smiling assassin.
Ooh, smiling assassin. Nice.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So who's getting the goodie?
I will choose after the panel.
Right.
So we'll set some context, and then we will dive in to the meat of the matter. Talking about app usage, which is sort of drastically, significantly, and exponentially scaled over the last few years, right? The pandemic, although unfortunate, inadvertently brought a lot of users online for the very first time, and this trend is only growing. Mobile, face it or not, forms a core pillar for our business. For most businesses, obviously exceptions aside, but it does form a huge engine, right? And as product leaders, I think it is your responsibility and probably the privilege of keeping a tab on the pulse of the customers. And as you rightly said, add and expand features basis customer expectations, right? So I think the first question goes to you, Himavant. How do you continuously do this in terms of understanding this consumer behavior post-pandemic, but in general, and then add experiences that cater to this growing expectations of customers, and also balance business objectives? So that's a complex question, but over to you.
It's simple. The answer is simple. Continuously listen to the customers. And it's very important to listen to the customers and understand what they are saying. And it is even more important to understand what they are not saying. So whenever there's always a behavioral versus attitudinal bias when customers are talking. That means when you go and ask a customer what you would like to do, the customer might say something, but provided an opportunity to really work on, really do something, the customer might say some other thing. So while listening to customers, it is also important, you should look at that behavioral data patterns and really understand what the customers want and what their pain points are. And once you understand this, what their pain points are, you will also see what is the biggest problem and what is the size of the impact, how many customers. Obviously, every one of us are resource constrained. We can't solve all the problems at a single go, so we need prioritization. The prioritization framework stems from the business impact, the size of the problem, and what customers really want. And once you do this, by baking in the business impact, you are solving the business objectives part of it. And once all of this falls in place, we are solving the customer pain point and actual behavioral pain points, what they are facing and which impacts the business. This is how we look into it. And also, we should be open to learning, understand our mistakes. It's like launch, learn, iterate. All the 3 cycles should be continuously done to improve the product or features. And it's good that you said the word experiences, not the features. That's the most important thing. We need to, anything what we develop, it should be a simplified experience for the customer. It should not be a feature. So the customer backwards thinking and the right prioritization will serve the business objectives.
I really liked how you said, what customers say and what they do can sometimes be divergent. I really like. Sai, we'll come to what you said in your introduction, matrimony. It's an interesting space, and customer journeys might often be very long or sometimes very short for lucky people. But yeah, how do you manage handling that kind of a product journey? Because once the customer has found their match or their person, probably they will not come back, right? So how do you handle that?
We don't want them to come back also. We want them to be happily married.
Lovely. So how do you handle that with your business objectives?
The product is a very high stickiness product. So what we see is when customers register, it is not that they are coming with a very clear preference or anything, There is lots of ambiguity generally in people's mind. Like, I think that is natural. Because when people start looking for a match, there will be multiple attributes that they might think is important. Some they might think it's good to have, some they might think it is must to have. But sometimes what happens is as months go by, they start realizing, okay, probably I should narrow this down, I should broaden this down, depending on what they see as a match or what they see as a response from the prospect. Because it is kind of two-way, right? It is not about me liking somebody, it is about the other person also liking me. So things need to really fall in place. And hence, what we see is the user behavior actually tells us lots of things in terms of what probably is going to be something like a moving target. So the product as such has to be very dynamic. We need to keep our eyes and ears open, look at data, look at insights, talk to our customers, keep tab on what we hear from them. There are multiple things at play here. While we say it is a long drawn process, some people, while we say that, we have even come across people who have found a match in half a day. There are people who are very lucky sometimes, they just register just like that, the first profile clicks. So it all depends on the preference, on what kind of match pool is available for them. But what makes it very challenging for us is this. As such, the behavior of the ecosystem is changing. We know that the generations are changing, the way people look at attributes that are important for marriage is very different when it comes to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And now with all this internet explosion happening, pandemic and all that, there are more and more people coming from tier 3. So if you look at our product, the TG is very heterogeneous. We will have to have a product cater to, say, tier 1 vis-a-vis tier 2 vis-a-vis tier 3. Men and women expect something different. And there is also a parent segment which is sitting there. There is a family which is sometimes playing a role because 30-40% of users, there are multi-users. More than one person in the family use it. And they have different expectations. A father versus a self-registered tier 1 male vis-a-vis a tier 3 female, they might have different expectations, different concerns. That is one part of the story. Now, coming to the other part of the story, what you asked for in terms of when they move out. So when somebody is finding a match and happily moving out, there is a natural forward integration to our other product, which is wedding services. So we not just have only matchmaking, we also have wedding services where we have Wedding Bazaar, which is a product that powers the users who have found a match to find vendors for their wedding at different scales, and also mandaps. On top of it, if you look at the other problem that we, like any other app, any other domain, we also have is like, how do we address churn? Because there are lots of people who come up with lots of requirements, but sometimes they get overwhelmed. Because, for example, if you take a tier 3 person who has probably not that great language proficiency, even a simple matchmaking app might be very difficult to use because the features are too overwhelming or probably the language is too hard to understand. So we have to continuously keep trying to innovate something to give that to them so that we can reduce the churn or probably keep them within. For example, we have a Vernac product which we launched last year to actually cater to these people. Otherwise, what we realized is these people churn out so fast because even though they haven't found a match, they keep churning because they find the basic app very overwhelming. So I think it is a combination of how do we retain existing customers by doing growth hacks, focusing on where it matters, at the same time trying to handle the behavioral changes that are going through in the ecosystem in general and which also affects matchmaking, plus addressing the scale that probably is going to come in through the tier 3 boom is what I feel is the answer.
Wow, that's a lot of personas to manage. Wow. Okay. Apurva, EdTech is very, very different from the typical user journeys, typical product journeys and business models as well, right? So how do you work and focus on building high engagement features? And more importantly, how do you make users think without actually making them think and go through that product journey? I think that's a good subject for you.
So yes, as you said, EdTech is very different because it's very high ARPU. It requires, and ARPU is one thing, right? It requires very high level of commitment from users. Having said that, you have two types of users at all times. Users who know exactly what they want and they want to achieve that. Users who do not know what they want, but they have a goal in mind. So for us, when you say, how do you build products, right? Or how do you build features specifically to make them understand what they want is a different ball game altogether versus the users who know exactly what they want and get them there. Having said that, across platforms, right, the only problem we face is time management. Because we're into the working professional segment. Nobody has the time. Everybody wants to do 100 things in a day. And whatever we build, we have to, whether it be curriculum, whether it be the engagement features on the app to make sure they keep coming back, everything is around time. And it's not just about making them understand what should they be doing, what they should not be doing, at what time they should be doing. We have we in fact found amazing insights where people, because they're multitasking, right? Everybody's a multitasker. They just forget that they have to learn. They forget they have submissions or assignments to actually think about and actually submit. So we started building things which helps them realize it's the learning time based on behavioral activities of users. How many apps are they using at that time? How many platforms are open? How many tabs are open? And based on a behavioral pattern of every morning, do they come on the platform around say 8 to 10 a.m., which seems to be the highest time for a user to learn, we start notifying them. It's time, it's time. This is what is pending. This is yet to be done. You're behind, you're ahead, you can skip today. So there are very behavioral patterns of products that we build to make sure the engagement is super high. At the same time, Upgrad is in a space where while it is learn at your own pace, it is also monitored. And monitored very, very strictly. So it's a very good combination where if I have to finish a particular module of some concept, I will be given say 2 weeks to complete it. But at the end of 2 weeks, I will have some concept-based learning examination or assignment where I have to make sure it is also met. And that's something we're very proud of because I think we are the only startup in EdTech that has approximately 80% completion rates, which is very high for EdTech, right? And something which we, as I mentioned, very proud of, but it gets difficult to get there. So we also then end up building products which will make people understand why completion is important to achieve your goal. So we have something called an outcome predictor. As to you had a goal in mind, and that goal is gauged at the start of the enrollment itself. During the course of the program, where are you at exactly? If you need to course correct, we keep telling you. You're lagging behind. You need to switch from A speed to B speed. So we have these kind of products to make sure, because the course journey is also extremely long. Right? It's not something that learning is never easy anyway. And if you want to achieve outcomes like we have, which is either a transition into a new role or aspiration for a new role or just purely professional confidence, you have to make them understand and tell them this is what you wanted. And if you cannot spend this much time or you can't put in this much effort, it's going to get very difficult towards the end of it and you will not achieve that goal. And as I started at the starting, I mentioned it's high ARPU. everybody expects to achieve what is set out for. So all our features are very varied that way, but everything depends on what the user wants. And hence whatever we build, it's very behavioral oriented and it's very personalized.
Wow. Okay, thank you. Dilip, let's come to you. OTT and entertainment, these are like buzzwords in the last 3 to 4 years because a lot of us are coming online for the first time and actually starting to consume this content, right? And I think AHA Media specifically is making regional OTT mainstream. This is one of the mottos that is present, right? So the addressable market is quite huge, but there is also that much of supply. We have, I think, close to 40 different OTT players catering to the demand that's there in the market today. So what are the main trends for your specific customer base and their experiences that you're building for, right? And what are the kind of analytics that you do to cater to this specific customer segments?
I think we all have, at least 2 to 3 OTT apps in our, phones, in our TVs. We are always shuffling between, platforms to make sure to consume what our, favorite content per se is. But let me tell you an interesting story. There's a dominant language, there's a significant language. I think India predominantly, 80% of it is dominant language, and 20% of it is, dominant plus, there's probably one more language. Let me give an example. So my dad, who's a doctor, he speaks, English. He speaks, he can communicate well. He can, well versed with Hindi also. But at the end of the day, when he goes back to his reading, his entertainment access or news channel access, he falls back to Telugu. The mother tongue always rules over any other language. It's as simple as it, right? It's dal chawal at the end of the day. Whatever you do, you travel countries, you want to come back to your dal chawal, and that's the dominant language, and that's the biggest USP that we have built our platform on. Now, yes, there are 40 plus OTT applications, addressing different needs of different customer base. But I think there is a pure focus OTT per language that is required, and that's where we are catering. Quick numbers: almost 100 million Telugu population, India and abroad. We are 100% Telugu. That's what we started, and then we are recently forwarded into Tamil, out of which almost 50% of it is digitally active video audience, and just seeing about the paying potential of this audience is almost 10 million only in Telugu, and that's the potential of a single language what India has to offer. And for domestic biggies or international OTT platforms who are offering the same content, for them regional is multiple languages, but for us regional is Telugu only. For us regional is Tamil only now, right? You need the dedicated focus to serve cater to the needs of audience, I think, which is predominantly resting on the dominant language. On the analytics part, I think what we do is we captivate stories. We build stories of the land, stories that people relate to from the particular land, and that's how we were able to build such a good. We were able to be one of the market leaders in the Telugu space alone, and now Tamil coming through. Predominantly, we use data to understand the content consumption patterns, understand the nuances of what their likes are, what their dislikes are. Is it really content that can drive? Do we have to continuously acquire a Kantara or a Pushpa or a KGF? It's not sustainable, right? What else can we do to make sure we become that platform which is parallel to linear television, right? Continuously, we are reading the data to learn the consumption patterns of their audiences. It is almost similar to that of the Hindi language, but has its own preferences in their dominant language of mother tongue.
Again, very complicated to sort of very different personas and complicated to sort of move between these different languages.
Absolutely, and like esteemed panelists from the earlier session talked about, I think Bharat, we are very closer to Bharat if you have to put it that way. The needs of the tier 2 and below, when we're building an application or when we are commissioning a content, when we are putting out a new feature out of the market, it's extremely important to build the same thing for somebody in an AC cabin, have a flagship iPhone or a Samsung, versus that Jio phone which is just sub 2,000 rupees, has a 2.5-inch screen. So extreme ends of the spectrum, but you still have to serve the same need. both of them want the same thing. They want to enjoy their favorite content, and they both want to enjoy the content in their favorite, dominant language. As simple as it. So rest is we'll have to figure out, what we want. And the needs are definitely different, each of it. But at the end of the day, they want their entertainment quota of the day.
So I think we spoke about how category and customer behavior shape up the product, right? And product typically owns the product market fit charter, and you work with growth and marketing teams to sort of achieve your goals of user base. So I'll start with you, Sai. How do you build your brand's relationship vis-a-vis the customer retention policy at play? So how do you do that with your own brand?
So I think ours is, the product is the core, it's the nucleus, because end of day, what we market, what we sell, everything is based on what we do. So one thing that we do is like, it is very clear that we'll have to maintain certain health metric once the customer is acquired on the platform. While the marketing team gets the customer, it is the key responsibility of the product team to ensure that we get the right experience for the customer. So there are a few things that we do. One is, there are very great focuses on the NUX. The new user experience is something that we take it very seriously, and all our metrics that we measure in terms of CSAT, for free members, paid members, all of that is in a 30-day cohort, because we think if the new user's experience is right, then rest is taken care by itself. So that is one thing. So we do lots of focus in terms of getting that act right. It's not about acquiring the customer, that's just one beginning that we could do, but a lot more has to be done in terms of getting the customer into that ideal customer definition. So we try to figure out how do we drive the customer to complete his profile, how do we ensure the customer sends out the first interest, how do we ensure that the customer sees X number of profiles, and again, whether the app can be downloaded if somebody is using through the desktop or the PWA, or if the person is kind of vernacular, then we try to see how do we enable interactions between the prospects, because they may not use chat, they may not use, say, messaging, they might predominantly use WhatsApp kind of things, which are more native to them. That is how we try to build our features. So each of the product that we have for this NUX, if you look at the product user experience journey, everything is like very different, because we believe that we have close to 300 products, and each of these products, they have a different purpose, different TG. So it's very important for us to get the math right in terms of having the right user experience for the right product. Otherwise, the marketing efforts would be defeated, because we might actually get a customer who churns out because he or she feels there is a disconnect. For each of the products that we, or at least the major product verticals that we have, where the TGs are very different, the marketing and the product team has to work hand in hand. Otherwise, there will be a alignment issue. Like for example, there are a few products which we recently launched, 0 to 1. One is, we launched a product for the vernacular, which is called Jodi last year. So we asked, while market did the research, we had to do lots of research from our end to figure out what these people even want. Because these are first-time online users, and imagine these users, we're talking about Bharat, and we're talking about people coming online to buy, etc. But here are we who are like trying to bring these users online to find a match. For them, marriage is such a big thing, and for them, marriage means it is through relatives, through marriage brokers, pundits, or something like that. This is kind of a shocker for them, because suddenly they are online and they are trying to find a match online. For some of those people, it is first time in their entire life that they're even hearing something like this is possible. So for them, building the trust for them, making that trust factor important on the product was one of the key challenges. So it's not about acquiring the customer, that we could do, but again, if we don't give the right product experience, trust factor is not addressed, these people are not going to have the faith in the platform. So that is where I think the product and marketing alignment is kind of very, very important, I would say. And the other recent product that we launched is, again, a very different product. I don't know how many of you are aware. On September 6th, which happens to be the Indian Pride Day, Matrimony.com launched a new product called Rainbow Love for LGBTQ for finding a partner. So this was again a very new product for all of us, because we had to understand the domain better. We had to do lots of research from marketing and also from product, because if we do something wrong, then we are probably not going to serve the purpose. We really want to serve the community, So I think that is where both things need to go hand in hand. And for us, user experience is the key for product, I would say. While we have major metrics like engagement or churn reduction, etc., for a CSAT boils down to customer experience, and our UX team is the core of product, where they try to solve many customer problems by putting themselves in the customer shoes. And we were having a chat offline, and I was talking about how we take customer interactions very seriously. Marketing team, while they focus on getting customers doing research, product mandatorily does customer research. We talk to customers every week because we believe that unless until we talk to them, it's impossible for us to know what they want. The stated and unstated needs, like how we heard from the panel some time back, need to be addressed, but at least the stated needs we should be able to figure out if we talk to them well. I think that is one point which all of us need to follow as a Bible. Talking to customers is the most important thing that we should do, because if we are not hearing from them, then we are probably fundamentally doing something totally wrong. That's my view about how marketing and product has to go hand in hand and be aligned.
Apurva, you mentioned something in the previous one called ARPU, right? So average revenue per user or per paying user differs, right? So that's already marketing language. So how do you work with marketing to optimize towards high ARPU users, and how do you optimize to deliver value to the most relevant customer, because relevancy becomes super important in your specific case, right?
So I'm going to answer that in 3 ways. We have very simple funda. If you will not involve, you will not be able to improve within the team itself. If you're not able to involve all the stakeholders that are working with you with a similar objective and similar agenda to bring the correct user and do the matchmaking, in our case, a learner with the outcome, you won't be able to, however good your product is, and if you're not able to explain the same experience or what the outcome would be to a user via the marketing channel, you might as well not do it, right? So it's extremely important for us to involve not just marketing in our case. You have business stakeholders as well, right? You have the entire leadership that has a vision of 5 years, 10 years, everybody to be involved. So what we've done essentially is the product team owns some guardrails. All right, we have some MECE metrics in place as to which team should be doing what and which capacity should they be helping in. No doubt about it, product managers are the gatekeepers of making sure a problem statement is being discussed and not a solution. There is first principle approach being used for building all solutions. There is proper user validation happening. At the same time, all of this is happening for multiple user personas that a product would have, right? So just like as Sai mentioned, she has 300 products. I might have one, but I have 7 personas. Because Upgrad has, or we position ourselves now as a lifelong learning partner for career success, because career does not stop at just one age group, right? So from anywhere between 18 to 54, your personas keep changing because the objective at that point in your life is every time different. You might want to just build a better network. You want to change something. You want to change your entire transit into a new role altogether, right? So we have 7 personas. And along with each stakeholder that we have, and I'm using this word very carefully because I want to go a little away from just the marketing team, every stakeholder now understands these personas. And making sure these personas are understood across the org is also product's job. Right? So building these guardrails and making sure that every solution is really well thought through. So we scrutinize our solutions. So we have something called a scrutinize session itself, which is internally called SS. A scrutinize session where every solution is shown to every important stakeholder, and we scrutinize everything out of it. Everything from the font, to the color, to the verbiage used, everything possible. Only then you can reduce the unknown, is what we believe in. And I think that's been working well for us.
Himawant, over to you. I have always wanted to ask this question, and I'm having the privilege of asking it in front of everyone. When customers open your app, how often do they know what they would like to buy? And I'm sure you have some sort of analytics at your end to actually drive and understand that metric. And if they don't, how often do you indulge in nudges in product-led growth from a growth perspective and from a marketing perspective? How often do you indulge in that? And what are your system processes around that?
The customers who know what they want to buy, it's pretty straightforward. They're very, very particular. They want to say Levi's jeans they want to buy, and they will search for it, and they'll add to cart, and they'll do the payment. For other customers who are into exploratory mode, you need to handhold them and help, such as personalized recommendations, similar things, what you like, based on purchase history. All of these are some of the levers which we continuously showcase to customers, say these are the some things what you need to look at so that you can buy. And thanks to the advancement in big data and these data processing during runtime, all of that, we are able to do the number crunching, and we are able to track every single click of customer throughout the journey, right from the customer opens the app to the customer places the order. Customer opens the app and customer searches for an item, view the detail page of it, and then add to cart, and then initiate a payment. So we do look at all this. This is the entire customer journey, and we follow this journey very closely, and every metric we track at an aggregate level. And in order to what you called out, the nudges, what we do is the farther the customer in the journey, for example, rather than at the search mode, maybe once the customer added an item to the cart, the propensity to buy that item is really, really high. That's where we look at various customer segments, cohorts, and see where they are in the journey, and accordingly we will nudge them. Hey, something is lying in your cart, you might want to buy it. Hey, this payment did not go through, you might want to buy it. Where these nudges help customers actually complete the transaction and also help us close the loop with the customers. However, we do have a high bar on restricting that for everything we can't reach customer n number of times. It's kind of spamming the customer. So we'll have some kind of high bar, but that high bar will start with a magic number and then learn with customer feedback and all of that, improve, say that let's say not more than 5 messages for a customer per day or 3 messages per customer per day. Such kind of guardrails we keep, and restricting to that number, we send these nudges so that this helps customers make purchase decisions.
Dilip, over to you. I'll come back to the demand and supply issue. We have around 60 million OTT users by the end of the year. This is the projection. And as I said, we have quite a lot of OTT platforms. So in that scenario, I think it becomes super critical for product and marketing to align and position AHA in a significantly distinct manner from the competition. How do you do that? And like, what are the analytics that help you do that?
So BCG released a report very recently. The total subscriptions in 2022 would be hitting about 90 million, total number of SWOT subscribers, the paying subscriber base. And assuming that each user will have about 2 to 3 subscriptions. So the unique paying capacity, the subscriptions potential of India is about 40 odd million, right? And even if you take a quarter of that or slightly lesser than that for the Telugu states, which is Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, where we are serving, that's our target market. We're talking almost 10 million, 9 to 10 million, potential paying base, unique potential paying base. I think that's a significant opportunity. To put things into perspective, I think the biggest of the platforms have that number nationally. But to have the potential of that unique paying base in a single language in itself talks about why this is such a huge market. And I think the box office collections of the recent big movies validates it. The RRRs and from the Telugu space or the Kannada space, Kantara or the KGFs, certainly validating the fact that there is humongous potential to monetize the content from that part of the country. I think that's the opportunity. I think the growth is significant. 5 years from now, we are talking doubling this paying subscriber base. Potential of subscriber base to double in 5 years from now. That's the projections by the latest BCG report. Thanks to pandemic, the consumption patterns have kind of fast-tracked by about 3 to 4 years. The number of connected TV devices and the smart TVs exploded. I think we're all sat at home, nicely sitting in our couch in the living room experience. So exploded in terms of consumption of the content in the living room. I think it has actually, to quantify it, it went about 3x in the last 3 years alone, a big push by the pandemic. For us, 50% of the consumption comes from TV alone, the living room experience alone. That's a significant data point for us to focus a lot more on the big screen experience, right? By virtue of being a video streaming platform, we have to focus on experience. I think that's what customers come for. That's what we have to focus on. that's some of the market numbers. The way we try and stitch product and marketing is we understand, again, it's a data-first organization. Many people do not know that a regional platform like AHA just creates content, churns out content week in, week out. Our unique selling proposition beyond being 100% Telugu language is we release one content every Friday. That's our unique selling proposition beyond being a language. And starting Feb 2020, that's when we launched our platform. Till date, there has been a content every Friday. And that's how we were able to build loyalty and stickiness. I think it's an extremely loyal base. Our retention is also as high as 60 to 70%, and fluctuates basis the type of content. So we were able to build that loyalty by telling the stories of the land in a single language, and that became extremely critical. They started opening up to newer trends like fiction and non-fiction shows. Not sure how many people have heard this show name called Unstoppable by a very popular actor called NBK, known as Nandamuri Balakrishna, ex-Chief Minister, NTR's son. It's IMDb top 5 shows in the country, and consistently win. And while the show was broadcasted, it is the #1 TV show in the country. That's how popular it became. I think the space suddenly started opening up to more creativity. As recently as 5 months ago, we have licensed the Telugu version of Idol, Indian Idol. We have Telugu Indian Idol now. We are now opening up the season 2. We also opening up newer formats for non-fiction show, talk shows, more game shows, and whatnot. Something nobody could have thought about in a regional space. I think we are bringing a lot more opportunities. Now, this brings a very interesting perspective of nuances of the regional audience, right? We were able to extract the interest of this audience by consuming a lot of patterns of this data. We have a robust data infrastructure. We have a warehouse, and then we build a variety of patterns using this big data. By virtue of being a video streaming platform, we capture billions of data points. So we're sitting on a gold mine of data. So constantly we understand what kind of content they liked, what did they not like. Should we do season 2? Should we even commission? Should we put 100 crores on Pushpa 2? Is it really worth for a PNL, for a regional platform? So a variety of this problem statements that we work day in, day out to crack some of these decisions primarily around the content. Now, also using the same data, we build a variety of cohorts, from the macro to micro cohorts. We understand not just who is free, anonymous, or a subscribed or a non-subscribed. We also understand the minute behavioral patterns, like one of the panelists were talking about. We do capture the behavior of the customer at every touch point on the application on the moment they come in, and we build micro behavioral targeting and retargeting campaigns. And that's where hand-in-hand efforts happen between product and marketing.
Okay, that was a lovely conversation filled with insights on personas, insights on marketing, alignment with product marketing. It's lovely. Thank you so much for this. We will conclude now. And I hope that this insight from the product leaders really help us align between product and marketing and achieve magic together.